we can't start this conversation before bringing up your father, Sri Ravi Belagere sir.
ಯಾರು ಮಾತಾಡೋದು, who's on the call, and then I would be like, I'm Ravi Belagere's daughter. Tell your father you'll be raped. So calls like this.
On the call, okay.
On the call. Then tell your father if you step out in the to go to school, you will be kidnapped. I always say that, people either are scared of him, they are somebody who hate him. There are some people who really love him, but they can never ignore him. There was a case against my dad saying that he attempted to get his own reporter killed for whatever reasons. So, and it was under trial, and he was unfortunately in judicial custody. And that was a time which really scared me. So when I went there, and I remember this woman, Lakshmi, she got to know that I am Ravi Belagere's daughter.
Okay.
Somebody whispered there, something happened. She came to bite my ear. She held me like this, and she just rushed towards me.
Wanted to harm you completely.
Completely. I told you, some places which used to really fascinate me are morgue. One is that where all the dead bodies used to come, and I would be like, people there would come, the families. I felt a lot of human interest stories. You can get it from there. The second place was the jail, like I said. Chetana, your love letters have arrived. So these used to be from prison.
Letters from prison. Okay.
Prisoners. So, I used to really like going there, like I said. So I was like, this underworld used to always fascinate me. So I used to keep in touch with all of these people, like one day Sunil, he's called Silent Sunil, and one day, and all of those people are also like these they were all then very famous names then. And the reason why he started this was with an intention that there is a lot of news coming from the north, right? So very little space for the south. Even if you switch on your television, you see a lot of news from Delhi and that side, but then from the down south you don't have that kind of very few channels also which probably focus depending on the news. So the criminals confessed it to us,
the actual crime.
To me in front of the camera, and I was made a party to that. I was one of the witness. Somebody asked him a question that apparently Ravi Belagere has so many crores of money, and is this all is this all his hard-earned money, something. So in Kannada he says, "A garbha ee garbha ala swayam garbha." So "A garbha shrimantrante" anta. So he says, "A garbha ee garbha ala swayam." That's true. I mean, that was Ravi Belagere.
Hi Chetana ma'am, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. Welcome to the Midnight Lab podcast. How's the world of journalism?
Very vibrant. Lots happening.
Let's get to know more about this. So when we talk about journalism, we can't start this conversation before bringing up your father, Sri Ravi Belagere sir, the famous journalist, the famous writer, the entrepreneur who basically achieved everything that he wanted to. How was he as a person? Why was he so successful at whatever he was doing?
So, first of all, thank you for inviting me here. I think, today I'm sitting on the other side because I'm always used to being on that side. But it's nice. I mean, it's nice to be here also sometimes, I think. Yeah, speaking about my father, which I think since I have Chetana Belagere, the Belagere tag in me, and Ravi Belagere for most of the people from Karnataka and many, many parts of the world, I'm sure he's very known person. And as a person, I mean, as a journalist, he was somebody who was very fierce. How, I always say that, people either are scared of him, they are somebody who hate him. There are some people who really love him, but they can never ignore him. He was like that.
Always in the limelight, huh?
Always in the limelight, and always ensured that whatever he did, he is known for that. From what I remember from being a child, though I have seen my father being a successful journalist, being a successful human being, being a successful, personality. But I've also seen a lot of his failures. Failures in terms of, there were a lot of ups and downs in his professional as well as his personal life.
Right.
A lot of his, I've seen his friends going away. I've seen his friends coming together. I have, probably being the eldest in the family, I have seen it all anta helbodu nanu. So, and what made him so much of a success, I would say, I think one is the era itself, the era
Right.
in which he lived, where, I always feel like, okay, the person he was, many people have looked at him at surface level
Yes.
and have understood him in a very different way.
Hmm.
And some people have gone deeper. They have looked at him in a, during his vulnerable times, and some people like very, very common people, like, they're not somebody you wouldn't say, okay, he was a very close friend of Ravi Belagere and that's why he knows Ravi Belagere so well. No,
Right.
even a common person, just a security guard of High Bangalore maybe, knows Ravi Belagere much, much better than any other celebrity who knows him. So what has made him successful is this, I feel, the connect which he had with everything around him and everything about his life. Like, there was so much of that connect that he actually knew the, the nuance of how to get to that person, how to get to that thing, even success. Like, he knew it. There were, probably his start of High Bangalore was by chance.
Okay.
It could not have, probably he never thought that it will go to that, it will go
To
there.
the level it is
Yeah,
right now.
because he had done Ballari Patrike already, which was another paper. Why didn't Ballari Patrike go to that level then, right? So, but then he once it started doing good, he knew that where he should jump to and how he should do that. And the kind of effort he would put, that is something which I don't think anybody ever has that. So this is what I feel his successful mantra is. The one is the connect, the other one is the effort, the hard work which he actually put in.
Right.
So in one interview, I really want to say this. He said,
Sure.
Somebody asked him a question that, apparently Ravi Belagere has so many crores of money and is this all, is this all his hard-earned money, something. So in
Right,
Kannada,
right.
he says, Agarbha, E Garbala, Swayam Garbha. So, Agarbha Shrimantrante anta.
Yes.
So he says, Agarbha, E Garbala, Swayam. That's true. I mean,
Yes,
that
yes.
was Ravi Belagere.
We came from a humble background, very humble
Absolutely.
background. Right?
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, I have few questions from whatever you just said. So, being the eldest daughter, right? And that to being a daughter in that era, and being a daughter of a father who's such a well-known journalist, I'm sure there would be many things which happened probably that you didn't like, right? I'm assuming you would have got a lot of threat calls. You would have got some, or you would have felt vulnerable a lot of times.
Yes.
Tell us about that experience.
So, being his daughter was definitely a privilege. And there were also a lot of, insecurities of many kinds.
Like?
Okay, like, see, when I was probably in my school days, that's when Ravi Belagere was a Ravi Belagere who was probably a dreamer and somebody who was trying his best to achieve whatever, just probably the basics of, giving us, food and, finding for us like
This
that.
is basically in the early days.
The early days. So our time, those days it was like, okay, fine, Ravi Belagere, I know him as one personality who will anyway stand out in crowd for anything. So that was him. Then later, once High Bangalore started, so by then I knew that, he's somebody, I was in class, I just finished class 9, I was going to class 10. And here I have my father and my mother discussing that they're going to come up with some newspaper. And I was like, okay, newspaper reading was something which was like a very, very must-do thing in our house. So I knew couple of names of newspapers and all, because we used to read a lot of newspapers. And Lankesh Patrike was known to me then.
Right.
So something like Lankesh Patrike, he is going to start. And there was discussion in the house which was going on.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, this is another madness. He's doing something. Okay, fine. Anta. I really didn't pay much attention. I was in my class 10 in my, glory of teenage and things like that.
Right.
So I was busy in my own thing. Then the paper started. And it started in a garage. So
Okay.
Nammanele garage. All that I remember is, okay, Appa is sitting to write, so we can't make noise. We can't run around, scream around, get a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends. So, we used to get a lot of friends home. So that can't be done. So I knew these things. Then we got a phone. It was a blue color phone, if I remember. So, then slowly the phones started ringing. Earlier, it used to be only my friends who would call and I would be eager to pick up the
This
call.
was after Hi Bangalore started.
Yeah, this was after. We got the phone only after Hi Bangalore
Okay.
started. We didn't have any phone at home till then. We couldn't afford to have a landline as well. So slowly when Hi Bangalore started doing a little better, maybe about 3 weeks of edition and fourth week or fifth week onwards, we got a phone at home. So the phone started ringing and, or like it's, how the curiosity is, right? All of us want to go and pick the phone. So we would go and pick the phone and never realized what kind of calls we would get. So I still remember the days when, we used to pick the call and the first thing they would say is, yaar matadadu, who's on the call? And then I would be like, I'm Ravi Belagere's daughter. Tell your father you'll be raped. So calls like this.
On the call, okay.
On the call. Then tell your father if you step out in the to go to school, you will be kidnapped. So calls like that would really scare me. And
this was when you were in your 10th?
My 10th. Yeah, 10th
okay.
and first PU probably. So I think it was also a point when, I remember there used to be a deadline at home. Like after 6, we were not allowed to step out of the house. Like, wherever you go, come back by 6 o'clock. You can't go. Illandre Appa would actually sit on a chair at the gate waiting for us. Like he used to be so scared, that was... he was when he's writing something, he's not scared of anything. It's not for his life, but I'm sure he was worried about the family and me and my sister. Obviously, we used to be out all the time. So for us to come back home by 6 o'clock itself was like a big deal. So I think those threats and those were the kind of insecurities. Like, we weren't really scared. Probably we were tuned into that, that, okay, this is how my father is. He's written something. So it used to be exciting. Every week, I still remember he wrote something on Punarjanma something. So I would sit and do a research on how this could be possible. How can this 9-year-old remember his past? So is it really true? Can we find out more? So, I would dig into his articles and see what is there. So probably we were tuned into that world of journalism already. Okay. So I don't remember a time when actually I was really scared of something. It's never felt like that. Probably then I think he moved. Then he actually brought a space and he moved his office to keep these things probably a little away from us. And then after that, I got into journalism very early, I would say. So, the threats also kind of lessened. But I used to be very scared for my father, like he was not scared for himself, but I was to be very scared for my father. Like whenever I would see a headline against, politicians, against some of these business tycoons and things like that, I would keep wondering, like, he goes on a two-wheeler. We didn't have a car for a long time. So he used to ride his Suzuki and go. And I would keep wondering, is it okay? Is it safe? And I have several times asked him, Appa, is it okay? I mean, you've written about this. You're going alone. Is that fine? Because he would come back home by 11, 12, 1 in the night. And, I would keep wondering, is that safe? Like, in whatever ways I could as a child think about. So I would keep wondering on those things. So these were some of the threats that I would say that would actually bother me. But the biggest threat was, much, much later when he was in jail and, when that was a different kind of worry, which I think, we could talk later maybe. But these are
no, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Okay, so the worry, like I said, I was a journalist or I got into journalism. My getting into journalism itself also was something which I would probably want to talk about.
Yeah.
So when I was in class 10, I did really well in my school and then my scores were really good. And Appa said, I think you should take humanities, do journalism. I said, who will take journalism? I mean, I want to do science. I want to be an engineer. I don't want to be a journalist like you. I definitely don't want to do that. So I'll take science. So then my dad is like, are you sure? Like, he was somebody who didn't probably sit with us and plan things for us like how we do in these days.
For the kids,
But,
yeah.
but he somehow probably saw that journalism is where I should be, but I never listened to him.
Okay.
And I said, no, I definitely wanted to be an engineer. And I got into Vijaya College and I did PCM-C, computer science.
Okay.
So all that I did then, I never understood anything about physics. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Only good thing that happened then was I'm now my husband, then my boyfriend.
Yeah.
So I met Ranjit there in college.
Destiny
and,
again.
and all that we did was probably roamed together and went into watching several movies and whatever. But physics was something which I never understood, and I failed in physics.
Okay.
So I got my results. I was sitting and crying and I was howling and I said, what have I done and all that. Dad said, don't worry, you've come till 12th. You failed in 12th. I failed in 10th only. So we have a history, don't worry.
Okay.
So now come back to journalism. You just clear your 10th, but you are not going to be at home, he said. I said, oh, okay, so what am I to be doing? He said, you're joining work from tomorrow. The day I got my result, the next day, he said, you have to join work, come to High Bangalore. So
Sorry, which year was this?
This was in 96.
96,
Yeah,
okay. And when did High Bangalore start?
95.
Bangalore rather.
Yeah, 95. So then he said 96, 97 is when this happened. So I said, okay, I'll come because there was no way we could say no to whatever dad says. We were all like shit scared of him before. I mean, he was very short-tempered and we were all like, all respects we had, all love we had, but of course we were very scared of him.
Okay.
All three of us. So then I said, okay, fine, I'll come to office. The next day I had to go to office. I didn't know what I'm going to do there. He said, 1,000 rupees is your salary. And I had kept asking for a bike. He told me, you will get it once you start earning. So then I said, okay. Then I joined High Bangalore as an employee. He gave me an appointment letter. Then I started working there. So he said, so I said, what's my job? So he said, do everything. Learn everything here. So I was like, okay. And I first day when I went, I thought, maybe the colleagues there, like the employees there will look at me like boss's daughter and I'll get my way out and whatever. Nothing like that.
They'll think that, probably he'll choose his daughter, favoritism and all that. Yeah,
favoritism. I thought, he was, time pass, they're calling me and I have to go. Oh, I said, okay. Nothing like that happened. Sharp 9 o'clock, I had to be there. I couldn't go late. So we had this rule that everybody in office have to come by 9.
Okay.
And if you don't, then there was a grill that would be like shut. And you have to wait outside. Sometimes he would even sit at the door. That used to be like one big tradition. Like 9 o'clock sharp, all of us have to be in office.
When you say he used to sit at the door, basically referring to your father?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He would sit like a security. He would sit there and look at whoever is coming. He would sit and write. So the moment if he is there, then everybody is like, there are no mobiles then obviously. Like we kept wondering, why is Sinana not here? Why is Nivedita auntie not here? Why is... So, all that kind of tension because if your day can go either good or bad depending on whether he is at the door. He was a terror.
Okay.
So 9 o'clock I was supposed to be in office. Then I went. Then he said, learn how to do indent. So that's called indenting, where we would write name. There would be printouts of the district names, and we had to write how many copies will go there, like 10, 12, that way. So we had to write those indents.
Okay.
Trust me, many of the districts' names I did not know. So all that
and there was
I know
no Google
now,
as well that time.
nothing.
Yeah.
So whatever was there, I was like, oh, there's a district called, okay, there's a place called Manvi. Okay, there's a place called Rona. So these are the things which I learnt there. So then he would say, okay, sit and read newspapers. Read all that is there here. All magazines, newspapers. Then he would say, sit at the DTP, section. Go there. Sit and learn how to type. Okay. So I did not know Kannada typing until then. I knew English, but I did not know Kannada. So I learnt to type in Kannada. Then I learned to, there used to be this software then which we were supposed to use to make those Quark Express or something. I think it was called. I'm not very sure. So we had to learn the DTP of how to make the page layout. So
just for my understanding, DTP basically is whatever is getting printed, you're just creating that, or you're making
a layout of the page.
Yeah.
Like basically the page needs a layout. Like you need to put the picture here, then these many lines, and the spacing has to be adjusted.
Okay.
All those things I had to learn.
Okay.
So I had to sit with the DTP person, whoever is there in the team, and then I would learn from them. And then, so, that's how I got into the idea of, okay, this is how a job in a newspaper is going to be like. And dad never came home. Like, once he shifted to office, it was like, that's his home. Like, he had a bed and he had food used to come from home and he would eat there. He would sleep there. And Thursdays is the day when I remember he would like come home and take us to Atria Hotel, which used to be like, that used to be the star hotel then. And that's the hotel I saw as a person. I still remember a friend of mine taking me to one of the star hotels and then there was gobi manchurian. I just went and did this. She said, hey, Angala, you should eat it with the whatever
The
it's called.
toothpick
The
or whatever.
toothpick. Yeah. I was like, okay. So, that's, imagine the kind of,
Right.
we had never seen any of these things. For us, it was all luxury. So, Atria Hotel used to be one place where I was like really thrilled to look at, live music, and there is rumali roti, there is carrot halwa, there is, so we would get to eat all of this
Right.
on Thursdays. So, Thursdays was our family bonding time. So
Every week.
every Thursday without fail, we used to go to Atria Hotel. So that was the only time when I would get to see him as a dad, all the other time as a boss.
Okay.
So that's when, I had seen him like that, right? So my journalism, I was already into journalism. Then that's how I got into, I then did my Asian College of Journalism. I studied journalism there.
Right.
Came back, got into Vijay Times. I got a job there and, I got into crime reporting. So once I was into the field, like it's called field. So once you're in the field, then of course Underworld also uses the word field. So we also use the word field. So,
Yeah.
so I, during my crime reporting days, I had seen the jail, I had seen all of it, right? It's the mortuary, the jail, the jail is something which used to always intrigue me, and I would really be fascinated. I used to keep going there every week. You won't believe, like every month, something about the jail. I would go, there was Telgi then in the jail. So I would like
You met all of them at the time.
yeah, more than meeting, it's like I've seen it all types. Dandupalya gang was there in jail. So things like that. So I'd seen it all. But then in 2018, when there was a case, I'm sure many people know about it, but then there was a case against my dad saying that he attempted to get his own reporter killed for whatever reasons. Right. So, and it was under trial and he was unfortunately in judicial custody. And that was a time which really scared me. Like if you're asking me about being scared, that was a time... I felt like, what would this do to his ego? Like, I felt like this is a man who, most of the criminals inside there, he has seen them all, he's met them all. And, many of them actually who were inside saw him as a figure who's probably saved their life at some time and, have met him during their vulnerable times. And he has been with them, sort of, some of them. Like,
sorry, when you say saved their day, saved their
see,
life,
there
basically.
used to be a kind of, I might be wrong, but then I've seen some of these, people from the underworld who used to come to the office and say, sir, I want to surrender. Please help me. I don't want to get killed. So, there have been times when Appa would actually talk to the police and get that thing done. So, I'm sure they must have felt grateful for being alive, right, at that moment. So, these are the kind of people whom he has seen. And now he is gone inside as a criminal himself. There have been multiple cases of defamation against him. There was a criminal case against him also. But, all these cases, he never went into the jail and be there in the jail. Now, here it is at a time when his health had given up and his... but then his friends had given up on him. So he was kind of loner at that time. There are a lot of people now who come and tell me, oh, we have been so close to him. But sorry, but I didn't see any of them at those times.
He was 58 years old when he went to jail?
Yeah,
roughly?
no, he was almost 61, I think he was, yeah. So, 60, around 60, 61. So it was like, looking at him and in that state of mind, I really had like several breakdowns, to see him. But what was surprising is the way he took it. I still remember he said, I was the one who was kind of, running around with him, to the court and then handling this whole legal issue and talking to the police. And it was a shock for all of us in the family. So when he came out, of course, this channel screaming Jaila, Baila, and things like that.
I've
and
seen those videos.
I'm sure
Yeah,
you've seen the drama that happens, and I don't blame them. I know the trick. I know the
You've been on the
drill.
other side as well,
I've been
right?
on the other side as well. So it was all there, and I still remember the day I was in Victoria Hospital. We had somehow managed to shift him to Victoria Hospital. He was there, and every time he kept asking, "Magle bail barata? Will I get a bail? Will I get a bail?" So I said, "Today we are hopeful. I'm sure there will be some good news." And he was waiting. I was also waiting. I got a message from one of my friends, and he said, "Uncle's got the bail," because there was network issue. And I didn't have a smartphone which I could follow the news and all that there because of the network issue. And I got this message, and I just came to him and said, "Appa bail aito." So the kind of relief I could see. It's not about happiness. It's the relief which I could see in his eyes, and he just said, "Come on, let's go home." That's it. So, the way he just snapped out of it. Nothing, as if nothing happened. And after that, he was all back again in Zoom. That's why I said that ups and downs of his life, I have seen through it all. And I'm really proud of him, for the kind of, the kind of attitude he actually carried. Live life like king size. He actually did that. He always used to make fun of saying, when I would say this, he would say, and brand only was my wills. My willpower is that good. And I will do that. So he was amazing as a person that way. So yeah, these were some of the insecurities about about, if we would say, the fear that was created was these things, which from what I remember. Yeah.
So what was your father's working style, ma'am?
Okay, that is something very interesting because I like I told you, I've worked with him, and even in my days when I was in college,
you told me an amazing story as well.
Yeah. So his working style, anadikinta, work used to be his style, like always working. There is no I haven't seen him we were in Hubli, and I think we've probably seen 2 or maybe 3 movies together. Nimmurali. So that is all is what I remember of him really enjoying his time, or and the Thursdays which we would get. Otherwise, it's always work and work and work. So he would I asked him once, like 24/7 he was working. Okay, there was no time for him to when he would wake up. He would wake up, like, say, about, sometimes he would sleep. More than waking up, I think we should discuss his sleep timings, because he would never sleep. So his sleep time usually used to, from what I remember, used to be around 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 in the morning. And then by 8 o'clock, he's up because he has to see if everybody's come. Right. So that way he has to monitor. That has to happen.
So that would happen every day? Okay.
Every day, irrespective of, though he didn't know, he would always say, lekkadal neenu poor, nanu poor, let's not get to it. But then he knew his finances. It's not like, he didn't know his math, but he knew his finances. So he's like that. So for someone like that, he's constantly working, okay, one after the other. Then once he started High Bangalore, he didn't stop at that, right? Then he went into Omanise. Then he did Endu Maryada Hadu for ETV. Then he did Crime Diary. So, one after the other. So when I was with the Vijay Times, I was happy crime reporter, doing really well. I went and told him, look, I really like the Belagere tag that I wanted. I definitely wanted. But I don't want to be this person who is like, Appa Belsi Dalad Marat Kelgade, Nanu Andeno Vanda. I don't want that. Even if somebody wants my name to be Chetana, it has to be that. People should know me by my name, not by Belagere. I'm okay with the Belagere surname. I don't want to change that. But I don't want to be called as Ravi Belagere's daughter. I would always say there will be a time when you will be known as Chetana Belagere's father. And he was very proud of that. Okay,
you wanted to create your own identity.
Definitely, always. So, so this was me, and I was very happy being what I was, and I had really done some very good stories and got a lot of appreciation from my editors then, and I was doing very well in my job. Then my father said, I want you to quit and come and join me. I'm starting this, every day a crime episode called as for ETV called Crime Diary. It's going to be a home production. I want you to be the bureau chief, and I'm going to pay you 20,000 salary. So I was somebody who was getting some 12,000 salary or something. And I said, okay, it's a great opportunity. I'm going to get 20,000.
Right.
I didn't know what the future was. I was like, okay, I'm going to work for something. TV was something which I've always like stayed away from. Then I said, see, I can do reporting, but I don't want to be on TV and all that. He said, no, you just need to do reporting. I'll write the script. I'll do this thing. Have you seen this? There used to be this person called Kakatkar and Aurduandu. There used to be a show on Udaya TV called as Crime Story. So this was in competition to that as Crime Diary. So he said, we just need to do the same thing what they are doing, and your face will not be seen anywhere. Only thing is your name will come at the end of the show and all that. I'm like, okay, fine. This seems
money sounded.
Money was something which really pulled me there. Okay, I was like, okay, fine. This sounds good and all that.
Okay.
Then anyway, I knew that I will not get the perks of being Ravi Belagare's daughter. I will anyways not get. I've already worked there. I know that. So I came to Hi Bangalore back again. That same place was our office. Very excited. And the first episode we went to shoot, and the very person who actually filed a case against him, the Supari case, Sunil used to be our, my colleague, and both of us have gone on several shoots together. Unfortunately, he's no more. He also died a very sad death. But then, so he used to be my partner in crime, I would say. So both of us would go reporting, and we did our first shoot, and we were given certain instructions by Mr. Ravi Srivatsa, who was then who was guiding us on how to go and shoot. And because we are used to keep saying anta every sentence, then he said, no, you're not supposed to do that. You have to wait for the person to complete, then you're supposed to say the next question, all those things, the thing. Then he told Appa also one style, this is how you should talk, sir. Appa was like, okay, fine. Then the first episode was getting recorded, so he wrote the script for the thing. We had to write something called as TCR. Those were the days when we had to write down the from this point to this point, this is what he said. So we had
the
to
script basically.
It's not script. It's basically the entire recording. We had to the bytes had to be the time code of these things had to be written. So we had to write it and give it to my dad, and he would ask me, what is the story, what is the crime. So suppose a husband has killed his wife and chopped into pieces. So that's the story.
Right.
So you have gone there, you have shot the visuals, and you have interviewed certain people there, like the family members, maybe the wife's relatives and police and all that. So you need to say, police said this from this time to this time code is what this particular police, say some Vishwanath or somebody. So Vishwanath has said this. Then you put that.
Coding basically.
The whole coding. Then he would see that and he would write a script. And then he would narrate the script, and he would read out the script, and then we put the visuals and edit it. That's how the whole thing was. So he started reading, and then Ravi Srivatsa kept interrupting and saying, Anna, this is not how it should be. This is how it. He got so angry. He said, "Ishte hinge madad nanu. Bekadre tago illadre bidu."
Okay.
There was we couldn't do anything. We're like, okay, forget it. This is how it is going to run. We let it run, and it became super hit.
Right.
People would wait for the kind of punchlines he would give, the kind of I'm sure a lot of channels now try to imitate the way Dad actually would do the Crime Diary. So my journey with Crime Diary started, and I was very happy. As long as it was reporting, it was really thrilling, because every morning I would look at, okay, there is a murder here, there is a kidnap here. I still remember the days when we went, and there was a kidnap case in Yashwantpura, I think Yelahanka or Yashwantpura, and we were right there in the house trying to interview the family members when the kidnapper called. So we recorded the whole thing. It was live
right
on
right
in front of us. And then there was another case. There was this Ring Road. There was a movie also which was made called Ring Road Shubha. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
So this girl who got her fiancé killed. And he was a software engineer, and they got engaged. Both of them from Banshankari, very humble family and all that. And they were engaged, and she was in love with somebody else. So she could not communicate to her family, and unfortunately got him killed. The boyfriend and few other people together. So when we went with the camera there, the one, they had just confessed to our camera saying, yes, she got us into this thing, and then she gave Supari, and this is how the whole thing turned out to be. So the criminals confessed it to us,
the actual crime,
to me in front of the camera, and I was made a party to that. I was one of the witness. I had to go, and I was also part of the case. So several such cases, very, very interesting ones. And I went and did Aghoris. I've actually interviewed a lot of Aghoris, and I went when the Kumbh Mela was getting prepared. I went to Haridwar, I went to Rishikesh. So all these things, it was very thrilling for me. So the initial days of Crime Diary was fun. The first 6-7 months, I got to do reporting. Then I would go back home once my reporting is done. Everything was going fine. Then slowly, my dad could not see me be at peace. He said, Magle, from now on, you have to sit for editing also. There won't be a person, there will be one person who will do the editing, but you need to sit with him to get the editing done. So I said, but when do I do this? So he said, no, some cases let Sunil alone go, and some cases you go, and we'll manage. I thought, okay, fine, what to do? Even there was one person who was doing this job. I don't know if it was Ravi Belagere himself or somebody else, but that person quit the job. So we were like, okay, fine. And now I know why he quit the job as well. So I sat to do this. And you won't believe, it was like every morning I go out reporting. So it's not just Bangalore. I would go Chikmagalur, I would go to Hassan, everywhere. Wherever there was the crime, I would go there. Then come back with the tapes, sit there, get the editing done. And Dad was, his work levels, I told you, like he had to manage High Bangalore, he had to manage O Manasse, plus he had to manage Crime Diary. And the way Crime Diary, it was 20-minute, half an hour show. And what would happen is every 8 minutes there was a break. So you won't believe, there have been times when we have aired the 2 recordings done. When the third one is yet to go on air, we will rush with the tape to the ETV studio and satellite, air it through the satellite. It was like really crazy. Or, the next day's episode, we have sent it through, Sinana and I, Sinana would drive the bike. Sinana is the one who's been with Appa for all his, from my Hubli days, he's been with us. So he would ride the bike and then we would rush to the airport and request people, sir, please, idonchu nam Hyderabad alli airport alli bartare, so can you hand it over to that person?
Unknown person.
Every time. This used to be like, this became like one ordeal. So for me, for someone who by then had actually, got into this, I had kind of got an approval from my parents that it's okay to, date Ranjit, and then because that was on Ek Duje Ke Liye kind of story where we had taken a gap of 6 years and we had met, and my love life was kind of blooming. And then I get this job where I have to sit in the office for like almost 20-21 hours, I would say.
Okay.
Because hardly, I would sleep there, I would eat there, mom would send food, and it had become like part of my life. When I would go out for a movie with Ranjit, I would like snore in the movie, like movie hall. That was the time, 3 hours, I would get some sleep. So it became madness. I couldn't work like that. I'm like, what kind of a person works like this, Because I thought my dad is crazy.
Did you go and tell him this?
The way I told him, because I was scared, right? Nobody could go and tell him anything directly. And this was job. So I needed my money as well.
Right.
So I went and I wrote one letter one day. I called my mom. I said, I'm going to die. I'll either kill myself. I'm going to die by suicide or something. This is getting too much. I'm not able to handle this. Belige kelsa, madhyana kelsa, sayankala kelsa. I don't know when I'm doing whatever I need to do. I can't really do this. Then she was like, no, Ayusha, how will you tell? She's also worried because she knows my dad's temper. So then I said, I'm going to write to him. We had this tradition of writing letters and conveying things from my childhood days. We were encouraged to do that, and I have like lots of letters which we have written
within
to
the family.
Yes, within the family. Anything that needs to be communicated, we used to write letters. So that was like a very easy way of communicating because we didn't have to stay there in front of him where he'll throw things, So I wrote a very long letter saying I need to take care of my health and, it's really concerning. So I have to lose weight now because I was like really, really hefty also. So I said I need to take care of my health. I need a 30-day break. So I said, I'm going to Ujjire. There's this, rejuvenation program. Yeah. So I'm going to go there. Can I take this 30-day break? I will try for 10 days. If it doesn't work, I'll come back.
Okay.
Then probably he realized that this girl is not able to handle this.
Yeah.
Then he said, okay, go ahead. And then I ran away. I didn't even ask him his permission. I just took a bus and I went off to Ujjire. I didn't care. I wrote the letter, kept it on his table, came off. Then 15 days later, I got a job with the Indian Express, the new Indian Express. And I was so happy. By then I had already applied to other places. I knew that this is not going to happen. I didn't tell him anything. I just applied for a job. And I just came back. I told him, I've got this job. What do you think I should do? He was very happy. He was so proud of me that, it was a national daily and he was like, getting a job in that paper. He was very thrilled about it. So he said, yeah, please go. So the kind of work, that's the way he would work. He didn't care. And that's the way he expected everybody in the office to work. I'm sure if you talk to any High Bangalore employee, everybody will have a similar story. Nobody got their, all festivals in High Bangalore. Oh, today's festival, Ugadi Habba na, ಊಟ ತರ್ಸು, ಹೋಳಿಗೆ ಊಟ ಮಾಡೋಣ.
Everything within the office. Okay.
So, ಯಾರ್ದೋ birthday, cake ತರ್ಸು, cut ಮಾಡ್ಸೋಣ. Nothing. He would take care of his employees. But then work is something which he would always prefer.
Work came first.
And he once, when we asked, when I said, why do you work like this? So he said, he said, one thing which always worries me is when I sleep, what if somebody else writes 10 pages more than me? So that's the kind of thinking he had. He always would say that. When I sleep, imagine if somebody gets up and writes 10 pages more than me, then what do I do? So that's the level
that's what inspired him, basically.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Competing with himself, no? That was amazing, I think. He really never, many people thought he would compete with somebody, but that's not at all true. He competed with himself. He always thought that he should be better. And I think that was one of the reasons why he probably lost interest also later, because there was nothing else. He felt content. He felt that there's nothing more I can do, or there is nothing more I want to do. So that was one of the reasons why I feel there was nothing more challenging for him which he thought that he should take up and do. Because all these things, it was a challenge. He challenged himself with Omanse. He challenged himself with Crime Diary. He challenged himself with Endu Maryada Hadu. He challenged himself with acting. He challenged himself with direction. Everything he excelled. There was no failure. So probably he felt that there was nothing more challenging that, can give him that inspiring thing to kind of get moving. So that's when I feel that I keep thinking what actually made him stop, and I think this is what probably.
So from what I've heard, basically, he would try new things just so that he would be inspired and motivated to do whatever he wants to do. That's basically how Ravi Belagere sir worked.
Yes, definitely.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
So moving on, let's come to you now. Not that we're not talking about you, but you started off as a journalist, like you said. And you started off as a crime journalist, okay? You earlier mentioned about that experience going to the jail and the thrilling part in it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, now when we watch interviews, when we watch movies, a lot of these are most of the times based on crimes.
Yeah.
Or there's some bit of crime that is always added so that it provides a thrilling effect or, someone gets thrilled. Now, is it the same for the crime journalists as well? Because the reason I ask you this is, we listen to these stories of human body being chopped into 300 pieces, human body being slit, all those things, right?
Yeah.
These are very inhuman for the normal society, and it's difficult for us to listen and sometimes watch those videos or pictures. But as a crime journalist, you get to see those firsthand.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience.
So being a crime reporter is definitely a thrilling experience. All said and done. At least for me, I've, when I got into crime, it was very, that era, like I said, that was a time when we did not have these social media and, not many people where you had like this cameras always on you, everything is watching you. It was not like that, right?
Okay.
So the kind of the era in which we were there then, so, I'm talking probably like one very old person, but then things have moved, right? Things have changed a lot. So crime journalism was not how it is now. There was no social media for you to immediately get an update, and there was no these iPhones or any of the camera phones where people would record things and send it to you. It was not like that. It was journalists had to be there, right? So we had to go see things and we had to do all of these things being there. And so for me, of course, I'm sure it's dad's because I've kind of been with him and seen him work around this whole crime, and I was always fascinated by crime naturally. So when I was asked which beat you want, Roja Kandat was my bureau chief in Vijay Times, and 2003-04 I think it was. Then I said I want to do crime beat. So she said,
So you chose crime.
I chose crime. So she said, you want to be a crime reporter just because your father is a crime reporter. So my very first job, and I was kicked about getting a job, and this is the question I'm asked again, already linking me to Ravi Belagere. So I'm like, okay, it's a challenge. And I said, yeah, that's, which was fact also. So I got into crime because of the experiences I had heard and I had seen my dad go through. And I said, yes, I want to be a crime reporter. She said, not many women are crime reporters, very few of them. Then I said, that's fine. I mean, I'm okay to be in the man's world. It's a crime world anyway, so I don't care. So then I said, okay. Then I was put onto the job, and so that was a print media experience of being a crime reporter where, you know, whenever there would be some murders and things like that, we would go there. We would go to the spot and get. But still, that was something which were probably, you know, not where you get to see everything immediate. You know, even print media has its own certain limitations where you, as a reporter, you go, you don't really have to see the gore and things like that. But when you're a television reporter, what happens is you have to be there. Talk to people. I mean, you get to do everything firsthand. Like, you get to go deep into the thing. So the crime diary gave me that experience. I saw like hundreds of cases like that every single day, right? Every single day there was more murder, kidnap, and then rape cases. So, you know, you're seeing encounters. So I still remember this case when there was an encounter on the ring road, and there was a car parked, and we had reached the spot like immediately. My phone used to be like one walkie-talkie, you know, constantly. My dad had taught me one thing. So he said, you know, first thing you need to do for all crime reporters is to go and visit every police station in Bangalore, like every single police station, and make friends with the writers. Writers are the ones who write the complaints. Like, as soon as you go to a
within
station, within the police station, the ones who write the FIR, they are called writers. So he said, I want you to make friends with all of these writers. They are your informers. They will be the ones who will give you information, the immediate information when things happen then and there.
So they are the sources that
they are like
media
the sources.
quotes. Okay.
Yeah, this was one tip which he had given, and I diligently followed it. Like, every day I would actually go make friends with the inspector of the area, you know, talk to the writer and befriend him, make friends with him, and things like that. So, this I had already seen. So this when I was on the ring road, and we went to the spot. I saw some roses on the. There's this body, and then there's some roses. So body was cleared. Yeah, body was cleared by then. I just peeped into the. Of course, then it was, you know, a lot of education had to be given even to reporters on how to not step into a crime scene and, you know, tampered evidence and all that. But earlier, of course, we used to be all around, and then I went and I peeped into the car and I saw some rose kind of thing. I'm already thinking, you know, I was with Midday and all that. So, you know, Midday is a tabloid where you actually get to think stories differently. Like, you know, whatever has happened, you do things differently. You try and look at a different angle. Right. So I'm trying to think, oh, maybe he was carrying roses for his girlfriend and then he was shot or whatever, you know. Then I see it's actually intestine. You know, it's that intestine which is rolled up like that, which looked just like roses to me. So several things like that which we saw, you know, there. And I remember there was another case in Chikmagalur, where Chendraipatna, where a family of 4 were killed in it was a family feudal that was happening, the fight that was happening, and we had just gone, the lights were off and there was no electricity and all that. We somehow managed with our camera light and we finished talking. I'm coming out and I sat in the car. I felt something is like very wet on my dress and I didn't realize what it was. I got down and full blood. So I've sat on the blood and I've spoken to those people. I didn't even realize it. So all these things, no, it was very thrilling for me. For the crime reporter in me, I think I had it in my blood. So nothing of these things really scared me or anything of that sort. So I still remember my uncle, my dad's cousin. He unfortunately died by suicide. He was into depression and he died by suicide. My relative, and I wanted to see postmortem until I had not seen a postmortem, and I was very curious, like, to see what happens behind the thing. So there was Dr. Devdas, who was the HOD forensics then in Victoria Hospital. And then I told Devdas, sir, I really want to see this postmortem. So he said, are you sure? Because, you know, it's probably not suggest. I said, no, it's okay. I just want to like be there and I want to see how it goes. So I stood there. And
when it was happening?
Yeah, when it was happening. And then I remember Devdas sir explaining to me on, you know, this is an alcoholic liver and this is how there are grains on it. When somebody drinks alcohol, this is what happens. And he's showing everything. And I felt nothing, like literally nothing. I was like, have I become so insensitive to this whole thing that I'm actually not feeling my own relative? I know him very well. I've like interacted with him. I've been in their house. I've like seen the family so well. I have my brother, them. Like it's still nothing moved me then. So that was a kind of thrill. And funny part was I was like, this underworld used to always fascinate me. So I used to keep in touch with all of these people, like one day Sunil, he's called Silent Sunil, and one day, and all of those people are also like these they were all then very famous names then.
Yeah.
So I used to, there was one guy called Tappu. His name was Tappu alias Rajesh, if I'm not wrong. He was in Rajajinagar, very handsome guy. So there used to be this pager then. We didn't have mobile phones.
Right.
There used to be pagers then. So I would keep paging. Like for me, it was more of one was to kind of develop that contact, and I just wanted to. When I was in school, you won't believe, when I was in 10th standard, I remember there was one guy who had killed somebody, and he had come, and my friend and I, my friend Rashmi and I remember we went, knocked on his door, and said, "You've just come from prison, right? Will you be my friend?" Remember?
Serious? Okay.
This was in 10th. So I had that thing since then. So probably I was very, I just wanted to be part, somebody who would like proudly say, I know these underworld people like that. Not because of my father, but generally.
Right.
So I used to text him and he would text back, and all that used to happen. Then one day my dad called me and he said, "What are you doing?" So I said, "What?" Then he said, "I know you're texting somebody." I was like, "Oh shit."
So he found out.
He found out. So which means he probably had an eye on what I was, because I've always moved away from his journalism. I never tried to write in Kannada, attempted at all, because I always had this insecurity probably in me that, they will compare my writing with him or whatever it was. I've never ever tried to write in Kannada. So I've always stayed away from that. So that's the reason why even now when my sister said we should restart Hi Bangalore, I said, it's all yours. I've always stayed away from that. I don't like it. I definitely,
because of the comparison, basically.
Comparison, and also I feel like my dad was very proud of me for whatever I did. So I want to continue it that way. So then I was joking with somebody. Appa hakid alad marad kelage, I don't want to be there. I've planted my own plant, and now it's slowly growing as a tree. I can see that. So that's all is needed. I need the alad mara definitely,
Wonderful.
but I don't want to be under that. So the crime reporting was something really something which fascinated me, and like I said, the prison experience. I really want to share this. When I used to keep going there, and Mr. Shankar was our editor for the New Indian Express. I remember him coming and telling me he would keep those postcards. Then there used to be these postcards, so he would leave some 5-6 on my table and say, "Chetana, your love letters have arrived." So these used to be from prison.
Letters from prison. Okay.
Prisoners. So I used to really like going there, like I said. So
what would they write in those letters, just for curiosity?
Generally they would be like, "Madam, it's been 2 months since you have not come. It's been 4 weeks since you have not come. What happened? Is everything going fine?" And some people would say, "We need this particular thing to be done," requests and things like that. So even when I was at midday, there was one guy called Gandhi. So his name was something else, but he was called Gandhi because he was extremely in a fit of rage, he had killed his wife. So he had murdered his wife, and he was in prison, and he was getting released on there used to be this policy where they release prisoners on good nature, like I'm sure you've seen Munna Bhai and BBS and all that. So like that. So he used to be called as Gandhi. And when I was at midday, I got to know this, and I interviewed him. I said, "What do you want to do once you come out?" So he said, "I don't have any idea. I don't know if anybody will give me a job as well. I know to ride an auto, but I don't have money to buy an auto. So I don't know what I'll do." So I wrote a story about him, and through midday, we managed to gather money and buy him an auto.
Okay.
So I'm sure somewhere he is probably driving that auto, and I don't know if he remembers me. But then, so that used to be the kind of association I had with the prison, and I used to really love going there. So then once when I had gone there, I still remember this incident where this Dandapalya gang was very notorious, right? And a lot of episodes in Hi Bangalore wrote about the kind of atrocities they have done, and the kind of killings, and how brutal they were and all that.
Right.
Many of these became evidence for the court to convict them. So
the stories that you wrote.
yeah,
Okay.
not what I wrote, what Dad had written.
Okay.
Hi Bangalore had
Right.
written.
Sorry. Yeah.
So, so there were a lot of convictions that had happened, and some of the prisoners were here, under trial prisoners were here in Parapanagrahara prison in Bangalore. So when I went there, I normally would not tell that I'm Ravi Belagere's daughter. Very rare that I actually, anywhere for that matter, I don't really say that. Many people have later called me, and after seeing my byline, they would be like, how are you related to Ravi Belagere? Even now when I say Chetana Belagere, they ask me. Now I proudly say, but then I was I used to be scared. Either he would have written good about them and he would be friends with them, or he might have written I don't know what, and then I would not get my story. So it's better not to reveal. So I would always say just Chetna. I would never say Chetana Belagere. So as usual, I went into the prison, and usually in the prison what happens is male and female barracks are separate.
Okay.
So when you enter into the female barracks, there are women inside, and some women, convicts are allowed to move around. They are usually outside, outside as in outside the barracks. They can come and move and all that. Some people are in the barracks for whatever reasons. They're kept inside. They're under trials mostly. So when I went there, and I remember this woman, Lakshmi, she got to know that I am Ravi Belagere's daughter.
Okay.
Somebody whispered there, something happened. She came to bite my ear. She held me like this, and she just rushed towards me.
Wanted to harm you completely.
Completely. And, because that was the kind of anger they had that, High Bangalore was responsible for our convictions. They have their own stories that they did not do so many murders that they were actually charged against.
This was from the Dandupalya gang.
Dandupalya gang, yeah. So that was the wardens had to pull me back, and there was this jailer called Abbai, who was again my dad's very good friend as well, and a very good officer also. Unfortunately, he died by suicide. But so that was the kind of experiences I really loved about being a crime reporter. So nothing really scared me, or not one day did I ever feel. I would come back home from my Deccan Chronicle office and from my midday office at 2 in the night, and I would happily come. Nothing really scared me or made me worry. My husband would joke around and say, phone enidu walkie talkie there. The moment you answer the call, it's like, oh, there's a murder there, there's a kidnap there, there's a thing there. So it's like a continuous thing for me. So
wasn't your family worried for you, your husband?
I'm sure they've seen my father do all these things, so nobody was worried. My husband, it's almost like we grew up together, right? So he would just sometimes I would keep the phone into the helmet. We used to have those small Nokia phones, so that used to go into the helmet. I would keep talking to him. Then the moment I would park my bike, he's like, can I sleep? I'm like, okay, fine, you can sleep. I would come on a two-wheeler. So
this was in the night when you're coming back after your work.
After my work, yeah. So, but I always loved being a crime reporter. Yeah.
So you were, like you said, you covered a lot of crime stories. Now, there's this documentary which I had watched on Netflix, The Crime Detectives. And there's this first episode where the police say that most of the crimes are investigated from 3 angles. Number 1 is hennu, which is basically woman, referring to love, crime arising out of love. Second is honnu. Second is basically referring to wealth or assets. And third is mannu, which is real estate or land, right? Now, are these the only reasons why crimes happen, in your opinion?
Majority of the cases, yes. When you look at personal crimes, majority of them are this. And nowadays, there is also poverty. There is also insecurity, which kind of leads people to becoming criminals. Like I would say as, joblessness, where you do not have a financial income, where you don't have a stability in your job, then people resort to such things, right? You see a lot of these cyber crimes coming up. So on one side, you're seeing technology going up. On the other side, you're seeing criminals also shifting to a lot of these things.
The increase in digital arrest cases and everything.
When you look at personal crimes, it's mostly these 3. If you look at any crime for that matter, first thing, if there is a unidentified killer, or if there is somebody whom you don't know, police tend to investigate in these 3 angles. Whether there is somebody has taken finances from someone, and if there is some kind of interaction, of there's a money dealing that has happened, or if there is any property issue within the relatives or anything of that sort, if that is the case. And in most of the cases, they also look at the age group, the kind of circumstantial, scenarios which will probably lead them to, whether there's an extramarital affair, whether there's a boyfriend involved, whether there's a neighbor who could be involved, things like this. So it's usually, like you said, it's these three which normally is looked into. And we as crime reporters, when we were crime reporters, now what happens is police also, they generally give out information. They don't really hold on to a lot of information. Of course, in some cases where it is very sensitive and they probably don't want the criminal to get to know what is happening, they try and not really reveal everything. But those days it was very difficult to get information from the officers. They would never blurt it out. So we would do our own investigation in, again, these three angles. So we ourselves would go and dig into the cases and see if there was a there have been many incidents where we have written something and police has actually tracked that and found a clue. So there have been cases of that kind as well. So that continues to happen. It is true that these three are the main elements. But other than that, I feel now, there's a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of caste involved. There's a lot of, like I said, job insecurity which is involved. So these things are also something which is leading to, a lot of crimes in the society. Okay. And thanks to, all of these social media and Instagram and all that, where the kind of, the way, the path which is being laid to lead to these kind of crimes, I think is increasing big time.
Basically increasing awareness about whatever is happening, and that's kind of helping as well, is it?
It's helping as well, but it's also leading, like, see, earlier what would happen is you would probably see a jilted lover from college, you would see a jilted lover from school, and you would see a lover or actually the idea of jilted lover is bad. I mean, I don't think I should use that. It's basically a boy and a girl. I mean, there's no jilted lover as such.
Right.
So you usually would see only that kind of thing, or a neighbor, or a known family person. Now you have Instagram, you have Facebook, you have all kinds of social media where you have interactions happening with multiple people. Right? You don't know where which person sitting somewhere in Hyderabad is actually conspiring something here with a person in Bangalore. So it's gone everywhere now. So that's also a danger, I would say. The awareness part of it, I think it's not enough. I mean, you really need to do more, I guess. Yeah.
Understood. Yeah. So you're doing the crime reporting and you said it was a thrilling experience for you, you're enjoying it, and suddenly you move on to something else, right? So from being a crime reporter, you go on to become a health editor, right? A health journalist editor, if I can say that word.
Yes.
Right? So that's a completely different transition. What led you to do this?
So before I get to that, I just want to say that, I have two kids. One is Arav, who is in class 10, and Sarayu, who is in class 7. And for me, I took a sabbatical from 2011 onwards for about 4 years. Okay. 4 to 5 years. Because I felt that it was very important for me to lay that foundation. And Appa was very angry with me for that, that what is this? Why are you taking this break? What is it? Eshto jana henmaklu, they are there, they work and they manage. What is the problem and all that? Right. So by then I was city editor for Deccan Chronicle. So my jump in profession also, I'm very happy that it's not been because I'm Ravi Belagere's daughter. Right. But for my ability to do so good in my profession, that I have been I have always climbed up the ladder. So at a very young age, I was bureau chief for Midday, and I started with a salary of just 8,000, and I'm proud also that whatever I've done, I was noticed, that I did the greatest of the great stories, I would say. And I'm happy that I've done that. So I've even been given, last year I was awarded as best journalist by the KUWJ, Kannada.
Wonderful. Okay.
Union of Working Journalists. So I've done whatever I've kind of wanted to achieve. I mean, there's a lot more, but I've been there.
And you're happy with that.
I'm very happy with that. So I took a sabbatical because I found it very difficult. My son was a premature child. So he was born 33 weeks and he was in the NICU for a month. And, it was quite stressful for me because I was handling the entire bureau. I was the editor. So normally what happens is the editor's role is, you kind of overlook into everything. You need to see the bureau, you need to ideate stories for the bureau. You need to look at different beats. It's not like you're stuck with one beat. Now I'm the health editor, so I look at only health section. But then when I was city editor, I had to look at all the bureaus. Like you have something called as beats. What
Right.
normally happens is you have health beat, you have crime beat, you have BBMP beat, then you have corporation, which comes under BBMP. Then you have what would you say, a business beat. So like that, there are different sections.
So editor is
So-
basically responsible to make sure which one comes out as a news.
Yes, and
Yeah.
you need to, as a bureau, it's like when you're city editor, you are in charge of all these bureaus, and you will take it to your resident editor, who will actually decide on what news should go on which page and how important it is. Of course, you also need to do all of those things with your own reporter. So the reporters directly do not interact with the resident editor. He or she will interact with your immediate boss, which will be the city editor. So we used to, each paper has a different. Some people have it as bureau chief, some people have it as city editor. City
Right.
editor then has the role of doing all of this. So my role was really big then. And I would reach home very late, and I had to leave my child at my mom's place. And because he was very comfortable there, and thanks to my mom, because whatever he is there now, it's because of her. So she used to kind of hold the fort for me till I come back. And then, I would like really express milk and leave it there. And then she would like feed him. So all of these things, I started feeling very guilty. Then I said, no, I don't think this is what I should do. Nothing is more important than my family at that point of time. And I said I should take a sabbatical. I quit.
Okay.
Then, and I am also very impulsive like my dad, like very, very impulsive. So I take a lot of decisions on this impulse. And thankfully, all of those have worked well for me. So I did that. I took a break, and then, for about 2 months or 3 months, I was like happy because I was free. And, imagine the kind of work pressure and the
After
time
so
I
many
had,
years,
and
yeah.
then nothing to do. I was happy doing whatever I was doing, the mothering the child and all that. And then I realized this is not what I want to do. I want to start my own newspaper. So I thought that, there is something which is not really touched upon. There used to be one I don't know if you've heard of it. It was called Banshankari Times, and there was another one called Jayanagar Times or something, which was community-based newspapers, which used to be only given to that particular area.
Right.
So I decided I want to do something like that. And I started a paper called a City Buzz.
City Bus.
Yeah. So City Buzz was basically a paper which would talk about different communities, different areas, whatever news is happening in that particular community, then that would come out as a story. And we would cover art, crime, everything in that. So I started this, and I was very ambitious. I said I want to do it in color. And I said I can't do like how my dad did, of course. So I will do with ads. So I said, okay, we will bring out ads also. And I told my dad that I'm doing this. It was not, can I do this? I said, okay, go ahead, do it. I mean, I'm very proud of you. Go ahead and do it. So thanks to my husband, who kind of agreed to fund me on that. So
Okay.
then I said, okay, fine. And have always been like this. I will not take money from dad or all those things. So I did it on my own, set it up. I had employees. I employed people. We started, and I did not understand the marketing part of it. The
Okay.
editorial part of it was fantastic. I got the best of the best people to do the job, and I had the very good reporters, very young guys, and who did fantastic. Again, I understood how it was for my dad to kind of start this whole thing. So I was doing great, but unfortunately, I did not understand how to seep into the market part of it, where the circulation and how do you actually ensure that this reaches a lot of people, subscription model, or what do I do? None of that went into my head. So
Okay.
dad did not know math, but he did his finances well. But for me, it was both ways zero. So I didn't understand any of that. And by then, I got pregnant with my second one.
Okay.
So again, I took a very impulsive decision to stop it. Just then, when I had reached a circulation of 9,000 copies, 9,000 copies circulation for a paper like that is really big.
Right.
And I had managed to reach that, but I just decided I can't do this. I need to concentrate on myself because of my pregnancy, and I gave up on that. So then I got pregnant with my second one, and I had Sarayu then. And once Sarayu was born, I probably gave myself like a year's time again. And then I couldn't sit at home.
Right.
I said I have to do something.
The journalist in
So-
you did not sit quiet.
Even before that, I had already gone to, when I was pregnant with Saryu, there is this training center called as Kathalaya. I don't know if you've heard of him. Geeta Ramanujam's Kathalaya is a wonderful place to learn the art of storytelling. So I went there and I did a course in storytelling. So generally just for the fun of, because I wanted to tell story. Like my mom is a very great storyteller. She didn't have to learn any of these things. But for me, I was into theater and all that in college. So I thought I should learn, storytelling. And I went and I learned storytelling from Kathalaya. And I came back and when I was with my daughter, I realized that why don't I do something? I used to, like I said, my dad was, he used to make us read a lot of newspapers and all that. So for us, reading it came naturally. It didn't seem like, oh, I have to read and all that. But then I realized when I was, helping my son out and all that, I realized a lot of parents feel reading means something. Oh, my son is not reading. It's not the reading is actually, you should read for fun. Very
Right.
very few of us. Maybe when you say reading, you will think of it as fun. Most of us think as, oh my God, reading. Why do you want to read it? For them,
Yeah.
reading is textbook, right? So then
Right.
I thought, no, I don't think that's reading. And when I failed, I remember my dad motivating me by saying that this is not the end of it. I mean, there's a lot of things which happens in life, and you just need to keep moving ahead. And the way he motivated me at that time when I had failed in second PU. So I thought, okay, this is something I really want to tell parents that, look, this is not what reading is. Reading is something different. Let me show you. So I thought, I should get into this, get people into the habit of reading. So I started something called as Chukubuku from the
Chukubuku.
terrace of my house. I had like I have a very lovely terrace which has some small garden and all that. So I said, I don't want to invest in this. I've already my husband's money had already
Right.
lost it in
Yeah.
City Bus. I said, I don't want to invest anything. I'll just buy some books for whatever I have. And I will sit with the parents and I will read. I will read it aloud. I will read it in the form of storytelling. And slowly I started doing this only with Sarayu's friends.
Okay.
Friends, she was probably about 2 years of age then. So I would get 2 years kids coming with their parents and read aloud is what used to happen. So I believe that, when you read aloud, you're holding the child, right? You're holding the child.
Yeah.
The child feels that you're not doing anything else. You're not on your phone. You're not doing anything else. You're reading to the child. And that can be done at an age of even at birth. You can start talking to the child at that time. Just show pictures to the child. So I used to read a lot of these picture stories. Just show pictures. Look at the moon. Look at the stars. Just simple reading. So slowly I stepped into the world of reading like that. So it's called Chukubuku basically because it's a train of thoughts, right? Reading.
Yeah.
So Book is also there in it. So I love the name
Very
also.
nice name, actually.
Yeah. So I started doing that. Then there is something called as phonetics. Phonetics is
Yes.
basically the way you learn English.
Right.
So I went and did a course in that. How do you teach phonetics? Because for me, always in the background, how much ever money my dad might have, how much ever money my husband might have, I didn't have money, right? I used to get a salary, and the salary had stopped because I'd quit my job. I needed money.
Right.
So I was wondering, how else can I actually do this? What else can I do? So slowly I picked up on the teaching phonetics. I started something called a CB phonics.
CB phonics.
Yeah, it's basically
what is
Chetana
it?
Belagere phonics. It could be Chukubuku phonics. It could be anything. So
Okay.
I did the CB phonics. And I started getting a lot of children coming. So, we did a lot of, on one hand, I was to teach English, the classes to, learn English the better way for younger children, as young as 5-year-old and 4-year-olds. And then I started doing this storytelling, slightly expanding it to where we would actually make planets. We would, after every story that we read, like there are some writers like Eric Carle and, some of these big, very famous writers of English literature who for children basically, and I would end up getting some small model done for them to take away from that session. So I did summer camps. I did all of these things. People would be like, are you mad? You're Ravi Belagare's daughter. Why are you doing all these things? I didn't have that air at all because thanks to me, I've never been under that, right? So for me, I did that. Then after my daughter started going to UKG when she was in school, preschool, then the journalism in me started pulling me back to, whenever I would see a byline, byline is your, like, what do you say? That's your asset.
Right.
Every day the asset gets perished. You come up with a new one the next day. That's what my dad used to say. Every journalist is remembered by his last byline. So your byline is nowhere. And you are nowhere. So dad was very angry with me for doing this. He was proud that you're doing something fine. But then what about the journalist in you? Why are you letting it go?
So he was constantly supporting you, basically.
Absolutely. Always. Even now, I always believe that he is there. I can reach out to him anytime I want. There's that connection. So that's when I wanted to come back to journalism. And I started applying everywhere. So one paper I applied, and that person, the editor, told me, you have to write 8 articles to prove that you still have contacts. I said, look, I've not been in journalism for a few years. That doesn't mean I don't have my contacts intact. I don't want to do this writing business. It's fine. I'll wait. Then
writing related to crime, or
no, he said you just write 8 articles and prove that you are still somebody who can manage to write or whatever, get stories done. So I didn't have to prove it that way. I said, no, I don't want to do this. Then I applied to a lot of other places, and the New Indian Express, Mr. Kiran Prakash was then the resident editor. He called and he said, okay, Chetana, we'll do an interview, and I think you can join us. But you will be joining us as special correspondent, and we can't give you any editor's role per se because we don't have that kind of thing. I said, nothing, that's fine. I'm okay with anything.
As long as you're a journalist.
As long as I'm back into the field. Yeah. So then he said, your salary will not be as much as you were getting earlier. I said, that's also, I'm fine with that. I don't care about that. Then I joined as a special correspondent.
Okay.
So special correspondent, what happens is normally where you do a lot, you can do stories from across beats. You can do crime beat, you can do health, you can do education, you can do whatever suits you.
Not limited to one particular
beat. So the special correspondent is somebody who has already established contacts, who knows the nuances of all these beats and can manage to get stories from, exclusive stories from all of these beats. I said, okay, and I was doing that. And then for some reason, the health reporter in the New Indian Express had quit. And then Mr. Kiran called me and said, will you agree to cover health? I said, okay. I anyways used to go to the morgue. Like I had this I told you, some places which used to really fascinate me are morgue. One is that where all the dead bodies used to come, and I would be like, people there would come, the families. I felt a lot of human interest stories. You can get it from there. The second place was the jail, like I said, and then the other place was the crematoriums where I felt the silence there. The kind of, I don't know, I still like going there. So there have been many days when I would actually just go sit there. And
because it's silent. And
it's silent, and also there are some stories which you kind of manage to get from the people who come there, and when you talk, when you converse. So it's something which I've always kind of liked being in one place. That place is another place which I like. Like I said, hospitals is one place where again you get a lot of these human interest kind of stories. So that is one thing which always pulled me, the human nature of the stories. More than these technical, scientific kind of stories, I like to do human related stories. People where you get to talk to people and do stories around them. So that's when I thought, okay, fine, health beat is something, let me try. And I got into health beat and COVID happened. So, so that's when the health journalist in me kind of came out. So it was, and also I felt, I was very clear, I don't want to do crime because the person who had actually seen her uncle's postmortem without any fear, after my kids were born, somehow I felt that I was getting a little too sensitive on even reading news about accidents and murders. And, somewhere I could probably, the mother in me also probably worked there. I don't know what it was, but I kind of felt a little disturbed whenever I would see that. And also I was not really prepared to do that. But then even now when I get a story, it's always the criminal in me, the crime journalist. Sorry, I don't know what it's called, criminal in me, the crime journalist in me, which kind of awakens, and I'll start looking at the story in that particular way. But that's how I kind of moved to health.
What a amazing transition, someone who's doing crime comes to health and is now talking about health.
Yeah.
Right? Great. So let me ask you this. So you've been covering health for a while now. We live in Bangalore, but lifestyles have changed now. I was reading about a lot of things, how fertility rates have come down, and majorly it's because of the lifestyles that we are living in. Now, in your opinion, what do you think is going to be the major challenge from a health perspective in the next 15, 20 years or for the next generation? From what you have seen so far.
Yeah, to be honest, lifestyle disease is one thing which is going to be like a big problem. That's your diabetes and your hypertension and those things. And the reason for that is the obesity. So that these are some things which are going to be like a big concern and a big burden on the state if the state does not really wake up to this. So, from whatever I've interviewed and from whatever I've spoken to several researchers and several, ministers and all that. Thankfully, recently I spoke to Dinesh Kundurao, and he was, the Karnataka government has come up with this, like where you go to door, you go and do a survey of, whoever has lifestyle diseases and especially diabetes and hypertension, which they are keeping a tab of. I think obesity is something else which people really need to look into. The governments need to look into, because if it's seeped in already in childhood, the childhood obesity is like really going up, right? Your food that you eat, and there's very little awareness probably in, and also sometimes it's also desperateness. When I had gone to cover a story in. About this very rare disease called Chukki Kaile. Basically, this is something which not many people. When I went there, I realized that the government does not know that there's a cluster of these cases. There are here and there. Basically, they're allergic to sun. They cannot come out in the sun at all. And their lifespan is only about, say, 13 years, 14 years, and the child dies. So
this happens only to children.
Yeah, it's only it's a genetic disease. So when I had gone, it's a very rare disease, and when I had gone to this place in Chamrajnagar, and I found this there was a cluster, at least about 8 to 9 cases like this. I wrote about that, and then of course the government acted, and there was a lot of Chief Minister himself tweeted about this and thanking South First and all that. So when I went there, what I realized is people, even construction laborers for that matter. So you don't have an option but give a packet of biscuit to the child when he or she is going to work. Like earlier days, what would happen? Probably they would make some ragi ambli or things like that and feed. Now it's like handy, right? You give Maggie or you give biscuit packets. So it's all that. Tribal areas, if you go into tribal areas, you will see shops set up there with all these chips packets and all that, which was not there at all in that culture. So it's all everywhere. The processed food and the kind of, the lifestyle we're leading, and many people do not, elderly. Nowadays, what has happened is, you have the young coming into the city, and the old young elders are in the villages. They're not working. They do not go into the farms like how they had to go earlier. So there is obesity there as
sedentary
well.
lifestyle, basically.
So the sedentary lifestyle is it's there everywhere. So I'm sure obesity is going to be like a big burden in the, I feel, in the community. That's something which needs to be really taken care of, I think.
Right. I have final 2 things to discuss. Number one, with the way journalism has changed in the last few years. Now, you mentioned of the you mentioned of the paper that you worked in. Right now, we are transitioning towards digital media, right? Print journalism versus digital media. Where do you think journalism is going? And the second question related to this that I have is, now there was a time when I was encouraged to watch news, or I was encouraged to read newspapers. But somewhere, again, this is my personal opinion, I believe that a lot of things that come out in these days are either biased, or would I be right in saying that being a journalist, it is not easy for you to survive if you are not biased towards someone?
Okay, so there are 2 parts to it. One is, the transition from print to digital. I think it is happening already.
Right.
It has happened in all the newspapers also. Newspaper, of course, there was something called as credibility, which they spoke about, and the feel of holding the newspaper.
Yes.
That is forever.
That's unmatched, actually. Yeah.
I don't think there's no match to that, right? Nowadays, unfortunately, we all take a phone with us. Right. So again, that feel of holding a newspaper, probably for the child born in the 80s and maybe 90s. I don't know if the child born in 2000 onwards really has that in him or her to actually wanting to hold a newspaper in the morning to read it, right? It's all digital, right?
Yes.
So we poor journalists also have no choice but move to that era of digital
give people
journalism.
what they want.
Yes, give them what they want. And of course, there are both pros and cons. Like when I moved from the New Indian Express to South First is basically a website which was the portal which was started by Mr. Vasu Gandikota, who's from Hyderabad. He was the CEO of the New Indian Express. And the reason why he started this was with an intention that there is a lot of news coming from the north, right? So very little space for the south. Even if you switch on your television, you see a lot of news from Delhi and that side. But then from the down south, you don't have that kind of very few channels also which probably focus depending on the news. So to give that kind of leverage, he started South First, where we cover news from the south, from all the southern states of the south. So for me also, this transition, the decision to move from print to digital, I had two things on my mind. Everybody told me, look, this is a new brand. What would you do? Like TNI, New Indian Express is an established brand. So would you want to move from one brand to another, which is not at all there? It's like a startup.
Yeah.
But having worked in several startups, like I've worked with Deccan Chronicle when it launched here. I've worked with Midday when it launched here. They were all not known. But then they're still newspapers, right? But this is one place, it's a digital. And unfortunately, in the digital world, there are several which comes in the morning, dies by night.
Yes.
Like there are many, many such websites which have probably come and then gone. So at this kind of juncture, how will you decide whether you want to really move from print to things? So again, it was a very impulsive decision, but I'm very glad I did that. Because, for me, I realized that digital media gives you an opportunity to connect with audience who are anywhere in the world.
That's very
right?
true. Yeah.
So in print, that is not there. And the second thing is, though it is very instant, like you need to give news very, there is this danger of sometimes doing misinformation when you're actually doing this reporting. But then South First here, what I realize is we are not doing that kind of breaking news. We want to be in that space where nobody is there. Like we want to actually write stories, analysis. If you see our website, it is like that. We don't do the mundane, whatever is already there. So that was another thing which pulled me to this. And the other thing is the number of words. I have a big problem in writing 250 words only. Like, when you're in newspaper, you are overruled by the... or probably ruled by the marketing team, which will tell you, look, there is an ad coming up, so you cannot write beyond 250, 300 words. In that, you have to finish your article, whatever you're writing. And sometimes you cannot tell a story in 300 words. At least I have a problem with that. I mean, there are people who actually do that very well, but then I really have the problem. But here,
not in the way you want to.
Not in the way I want to. And here I have that opportunity. And it is also, you have multiple things, right? You can do video, you can do, you can be on social media. The moment you write a story, it's published, you put it on your social media, you immediately get a feedback to it. There's a response to it. But in print, you need to wait for the letters to the editor. And you need to see if there is an official, reaction to that story. Only if it's a good story, if it's a story which is kind of getting clicked like that, then you will probably know. But here, everything, your entire Jatkam is given there. Kundali is out. Once your story is out, everything is out. Right. So that also is something which digital media is doing. And of course, digital media, though there is a challenge of, proving your credibility, making sure that, you're getting the right news. Like the second part of your question was that, where, how do you do that, right? You don't really have to be biased to anything. I don't think that's true at all. It's just that you can have your own biases, your own, leanings towards whatever, be it political leanings or be it any kind of things. But when it comes to the writing, if it's a true journalist, if he or she is a true journalist, I don't think he or she will bring that into the job at all. That's the first thing which we are taught, that, it's... And we are always told to be with the people. And people can never be wrong. Right. So you can, they can be political parties which may be wrong. There might be situations which might push you there, but then the people per se will never be wrong. So we always try and look at people's stories. That's how. That's why I feel that that's one thing which is kind of made me feel good to be part of digital journalism.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
My final question for you. Now we have these two trending statements made by two very big people. One is basically 70-hour work policy, not policy as such, but basically one person said that we should be working for 70 hours, and the other person recently went on and said 90 hours is what we should be working to become successful. Now, you've seen that part of the life where you've seen your father work for more than that maybe, and probably that's why he is as successful as he is. So, where do you stand on this? What do you think should be the right approach towards this?
See, I feel it's very personal, One thing is, there is no generalizing this and saying that this is the exact number of work he or she has to put in. See, now, earlier, the days were different. Now you have something called a smart work. You don't really have to work for so many number of hours to kind of be or do whatever you want to achieve. You can do smart work and you can still achieve that whatever you want to achieve, right?
Right.
So I wouldn't, I know my dad worked so many hours for whatever insecurities, for whatever reasons he had personally. But it is not necessary. And from what I've understood by speaking to some of these neurologists and speaking to cardiologists, it is not good for your body at all. Like it's ultimately, why do you work? You want of course you want money, you want a particular thing, but ultimately the happiness, the kind of time you want to spend with yourself, with your family, for yourself, that is something which you need to start looking into, right? There's no point working for so many hours and draining yourself out and coming home tired, not able to actually do anything that gives you joy. And there are some people who think that working for so many hours itself gives them joy. Then go ahead, do it.
Right.
It's fine. As long as it's not taking a toll on your mental and physical health. That is what I would want to believe. I don't think I think it's very stupid of people to kind of, just stretch for, it's humanly impossible. So somebody, I don't know if it was, who it was, but they said it right. He said, I think we should do the top-down approach. They should start doing that, work for 70 hours and then come to the employees.
That was Mr. Bajaj, I think.
Yeah. So does that happen? So then we will look into it.
No, I was doing a calculation. Okay, let's say I live in a part of Bangalore where there are no tech companies or a lot of companies are not in this part of the Bangalore. So if I have to travel to work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so I take 1.5 hours, let's say.
Yeah.
So I take another 1.5 hours to come back, 3 hours. Then I work for, let's say, 15 hours. So I'm basically compromising my sleep here, right? I'm compromising everything.
Yes.
But like you said, it's a personal choice, and if someone's really passionate about something, you don't need to tell them to work for so many hours.
They will anyways do it, right? If somebody is passionate about it, if they really want to get it done, they will do it. Some days you may work for, I'm sure when you're recording the podcast, you will stretch your sleep, everything, right? Because you want this out.
Right.
But then to make it a rule, to make it like a norm, saying that you have to work for so many, I don't think it's humanly possible to do that.
I couldn't agree more with you. Chetana ma'am, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for giving time, and I absolutely love this conversation.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you very much. It was really wonderful, and all the best to you for your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Wish you good luck as well. Thank you.